There was once a little girl who lived in a tiny little house in a tiny little village on the edge of a great big forest. She lived with her lovely mother and father, who ran the village bakery. Father served the customers while Mother baked fresh bread and delicious cakes to sell in the store. The family had a snug home, plenty to eat, and would have been very, very happy except for just one thing. The little girl hadn't learned good manners. She always did whatever she wanted, and it was usually very rude. When her father let her choose a cake to eat from the bakery, she pushed past all the customers and grabbed the biggest cake for herself. "That's very rude," Father said. The girl grinned at him with her mouth full of cake. "I don't care," she said, spitting crumbs everywhere. On her birthday, the mailman arrived with a present from her grandma. The little girl snatched the parcel out of his hands and ripped it open. Inside was a bright red, super soft coat with a hood. The little girl liked the coat a lot and put it on straight away. "You must write to your grandma and say thank you," said Mother. "Boring. I shan't," the girl said, poking out her tongue. "How rude," said the mailman as he cycled away. From that day on, she was known as Little Rude Riding Hood. Mother and Father worried that Little Rude Riding Hood had upset her grandma by not thanking her for the beautiful coat she had sent. So one day, Mother filled a basket with special cakes and took them to Little Rude. "It's Grandma's birthday today, so Father and I thought you could take these cakes to her as a present from all of us," Mother said. Little Rude rolled her eyes. "How can Grandma be having another birthday? She's already so old." "Please, will you take them? Father and I have to work, and your grandma is excited to see you," said Mother. "Besides, you still need to thank her for your birthday present." Little Rude sighed. "Fine. Thank you," said Mother. "Remember, if you meet anyone on the way, be very polite to them. Say please and thank you and all the other magic words." Little Rude took the basket and set off to walk to Grandma's house. It was a long way away through the woods. Little Rude made up songs as she walked. Then she got bored off that. She started trying to blow the biggest raspberry she could. She was blowing so hard that she wasn't looking where she was going, and she bumped straight into a wolf who was waiting at a crossroads. He tumbled to the ground. "Hey!" said Mr. Wolf angrily. "Look where you're going." "Why should I?" said Little Rude. Mr. Wolf had been going to a special classes to help him manage his temper. He took a deep breath and counted to 10. "It's just not polite," he said, "to knock people over." Little Rude stared at him for a minute. Then she laughed. Mr. Wolf was startled. "Why are you laughing?" he asked. "Because you just got knocked over by a little girl." Little Rude chuckled. "I've seen lambs who are stronger than you." "How rude," said Mr. Wolf. No one had ever dared to speak to him like that before. Little Rude swished her hood up and walked on through the forest. Little Rude had never walked to Grandma's on her own before, and she wasn't very sure of the way. She took a few wrong turns, and though she didn't realize it, she ended up back at the crossroads with Mr. Wolf. Little Rude put her nose in the air. "Ugh! This wolf is even stinkier than the one I passed before," she said loudly. Although she was being rude, Mr. Wolf tried very hard to be polite. "You must be lost. Where are you trying to go?" he asked. "I'm going to Grandma's house," said Little Rude. "I know where your grandma lives. I can help you find the way," said Mr. Wolf. "Perhaps you should find a way to a dentist to see your silly big teeth." laughed Little Rude. Mr. Wolf was very upset. Fine, growled Mr. Wolf. I won't help you then. Good, Little Rude folded her arms. I don't need you to. She marched away down a random path. The path was very overgrown. Little Rude found herself in the middle of a thorny bush and realized she was very lost. She clambered up into the top of a small bank and started jumping up and down to see if she could spot a way out. A rabbit came scurrying out of a hole in the bank. Good day, the rabbit waved up at Little Rude. My name is Mrs. Rabbit. Would you please stop jumping on top of my house? I'll stop jumping if you tell me the way out of this stupid, ugly, thorny bush, said Little Rude. I can help you, but you need to say the magic word first, said Mrs. Rabbit. Little Rude grinned as she did a big jump in the air. Abracadabra, she said. Mrs. Rabbit had several children herself, and she always tried to teach them good manners. That's not the word I meant, Mrs. Rabbit said gently. It starts with P. Presto? Little Rude giggled, jumping up and down even more. You are a little rude girl, and you can stay lost, said Mrs. Rabbit, going back into her burrow. The thorns scratched Little Rude's hands and knees as she crawled through them. It took a long time for Little Rude to crawl through the thorny patch, but finally she reached a riverbank. On the other side was Grandma's house. A woodcutter stood on the riverbank with a small wooden boat. Good morning to you. The woodcutter lifted his hat politely. I need a ride across the river, said Little Rude. The woodcutter raised his eyebrows. Well, if you say the magic word, then you can get in line behind my other passengers. Little Rude turned to see Mr. Wolf and Mrs. Rabbit and her family waiting patiently on the riverbank. Little Rude never liked to be last in anything, so she strolled over to the line and cut in at the very front. Mr. Wolf growled, My boat is big enough for you all, but I won't take anyone who's rude, said the woodcutter as he climbed into his boat and helped the animals on. He rowed them all across the river, leaving Little Rude behind.